Using a cycle lane around what looked like a rather large obstacle. Gets his head down, he's in a time trialing position.
This is The Domestics, presented by Black Sheep Cycling.
Welcome to The Domestics, wherever you may be listening on planet Earth. It's so good to have you on board for this inaugural pilot series and for this edition. It's Tuesday, July the 12th. And from all reports, we are going gangbusters in terms of listeners. So we thank you. Thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate your listening pleasure. And it is a pleasure. And you know what? There really is an international flavour to the show. I'm Mike Tomalaris in France, following Le Tour, and I'm here for Bikestyle Tours. And I've got to say, the weather in Europe right now is absolutely spectacular. It really is spectacular. We're joined by our team captain, and that is Matilda, who's in New Zealand. And Tills, I've got to ask you, I don't suppose the weather is as good where you are compared to where I am and where Hollywood is.
Yeah, kia ora, Mike. I'm in apocalyptic weather today. I'm hoping the internet holds out. There's 100k winds and rain, so soak up that heat because it's pretty apocalyptic down under. The weather's really turned. But yeah, it's the rest day. I'm staring out into the abyss. I'm not sure what to do with myself today. The Giro Don's over. It's a rest day in the Tour de France, and I've already watched the XCO highlights. So yeah, just looking forward to tomorrow.
And isn't it good to see Hollywood with a shirt on, although we are not providing any pictures on this particular edition of the Domestics. But Hollywood, you have been doing the rounds of Italy. What's been happening in your world?
Well, I'm currently in Lucca now. We made it to Lucca, and if you had seen on my Instagram, we rode yesterday. It was 41 degrees. It was magnificent. We did a nice 120k loop together, Al and I, and the weather is beautiful. Every day is the same. It's just hot, slight breeze. It's just magnificent. Couldn't ask for anything better.
I did see your social media today, and you went bang, bang. But we won't talk about that because it was bang, bang on your bike. Let's talk about the Tour de France. And it was a rest day today. And I'll just update you on the overall standings. Pogačar is in the leader's yellow jersey. The Slovenian enjoys a 39-second lead over Jonas Vingegaard of the Jumbo Visma team. The 2018 Tour winner, Geraint Thomas, he's hanging in there. 1 minute and 17 seconds, just ahead of his British counterpart, Adam Yates. There are three Brits, as a matter of fact, in the top 10, with Tom Pidcock in there as well. Sadly, the Aussies, well, they're having a hard time this year. Nick Schultz, can you believe it, in his debut Tour de France, is the best-placed Aussie. The best-placed Australian, he's in position number 39, some 29 minutes behind the yellow jersey. Now, the green jersey competition, it's almost done and dusted. Wout van Aert has just about doubled his lead from his nearest rival. So he and Pogačar are the outstanding riders in this year's Tour de France. Let's just quickly reflect on the first 9 stages, and I'm sure you both will agree it's been a very aggressive and very fast and exciting tour, despite the dominance of Pogačar and Van Aert. What do you make of the tour so far, Tills?
Oh, it's probably the best. Everyone's saying it's probably the best tour they've seen in recent times, particularly. But I do want to implore it's not over. I think it's been absolutely madness the first week, and all the riders are saying the same thing: how hard it's been and how exhausting it's been. I think for the staff as well. But it's definitely not over. I think I'm hoping in those longer climbs that Pogačar's, he may come unstuck. And really, I just hope everyone gets through the rest day or the PCR day. Everyone's being tested for COVID today, and the heat is also coming. So I'm hoping that Pogačar's been trying to get this buffer because he's a little bit nervous about the last 2 weeks, but it's certainly not over. A lot of these riders were hopefully riding into it as well. Geraint Thomas is right there, and the whole of Ineos, and obviously Vingegaard. I think he will be the strongest athlete when the climbs go up past 30 minute, 1 hour climbs. He's going to be the strongest one in the field. So very exciting 2 weeks to come, but what an incredible, entertaining first week.
Hollywood, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I sort of echo Matilda. It's been one of the best tours. I've been watching it many years in recent memory because, like Dave said yesterday, it's not like the boring procession when Ineos sort of held on to the lead and they just rode defensively. Every stage has just been super exciting, and I share Matilda's view. I don't think it's over. 39 seconds, anything can happen. Mechanicals, COVID, crashes, like anything can happen. So it's still the race is still wide open, even though it's favoured towards the POG, but it is anyone's race still up in that sort of top 3-4 riders, I believe, anyway.
We've got the big stages coming up. They're going to move away from the Alps, but not before taking on Alpe d'Huez on Bastille Day. That's Thursday, July the 14th. Tills, it's a big stage. It always is. The crowds will be there. The heat will be on. There's temperatures exceeding 35 degrees on Thursday. It could be make or break. Is that how you see it come July 14?
I don't think it'll be make or break. I think, the cream will keep rising to the top. And obviously there's no more, the most of the pressure is on a French team or a French rider. We saw Pinot try to get the stage yesterday, and in typical Pinot fashion, it was as dramatic as an opera. But yeah, we'll be absolutely cheering for a Frenchman to get over the line on that day. It's unlikely that they will. They rarely do due to the pressure of that day, but it's certainly going to be fireworks and entertaining. So yeah, encourage everyone to jump on and watch more than the highlights that day.
It's been a disappointing Tour de France for Ben O'Connor. Do you think they'll let him up the road and maybe allow him to win a stage, or at least attempt to win a stage, Hollywood?
He's gone. He's gone, Mike. Mike, breaking news. He's out of the tour.
Breaking news.
He's gone. He's out.
I didn't know that. Let's talk about someone else then. That's a shame. I've been enjoying myself on the bike and I haven't been catching up. It's weird. Now that I'm sort of moved away from broadcasting, I'm not across everything. And I should be, because I'm a domestique. So you're helping me out here, Tills. You are the team captain. If Ben O'Connor is not going to be let off on a leash at the Tour because he's not in the Tour at the moment, who can we rely on?
Storer?
Oh, I think... Yeah. Oh, yeah. For Australians, there's still a few good names, and certainly Caleb Ewan is still hanging onto the peloton for a few sprint stages. But yeah, I think Roglic is also 2 minutes down and could be let up the road. Tom Pidcock could be let up the road. There's some really exciting individuals who are far enough off GC that they could be given some space. UAE aren't going to be able to control everyone. So there's still, we're getting to this excitement now of the breakaways, because the breakaways have been absolutely doomed in the first week. But when at the Giro, it was all about the breakaways. So it'll be really interesting how it unfolds in the next 2 weeks for the Tour.
Well, we've spoke ad nauseum about Pogacar, and look, he's only got a 39-second lead on Vingegaard, and you said, Tills, that Vingegaard will come to the fore in the second week. But look, from what I've seen so far, when you look at the stats and the results so far, Pogacar has been in the top 5 virtually since they left Copenhagen. Look, as far as I'm concerned, Hollywood, he's unbeatable, but who am I? Tell me.
He could be doing too much, so Mike. He could be doing too much too early. It could come back to haunt him in sort of the latter stages of week 2 and week 3, because he's just done too much.
The old Adam Yates. And that's the thing, when you crack in those mountains and in that heat, it is minutes. We could see 1 hour gaps within the top 10 of this year's Tour de France. Once you crack in that sort of heat, the lights are out. There's nothing you can do about it. So yeah, it'd be really interesting how it goes. But so far, he hasn't shown any cracks, hasn't had a bad day, rarely has a bad day. But these guys are still human, so it'll be interesting what's to come.
The Domestics by Black Sheep Cycling.
You're listening to The Domestiques, powered by Black Sheep Cycling, clothing, apparel. Well, let's quickly talk about cycling holidays. They really are big business, and especially in 2022, and especially at this time of the year in July, when it's summer in Europe. And after 2 years when tour operators, some of whom went bust as a result of COVID. Many of the tour operators shut down, but you know what? There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'd like to disclose foremost that I am here working for Bikestyle Tours, but it just so happens that the owner of the business, Adam Gill, is here too and joins us on the Domestiques. Welcome to you, Adam. And I've got to say, first and foremost, I must say you must be relieved that you've come through and survived COVID, the pandemic, and made it to the other side. Tell us how tough it has been for you.
Tomo, it's great to be here with the Domestiques. In all honesty, it's been a bit of a joint effort from really supportive guests on our trips, hotels and suppliers in Europe, and there's always a bit of a balancing act on, when COVID hit, we'd paid a lot of money for hotel deposits. Of course, when you go to the Tour de France, you pretty much got to pre-book a lot of your hotels before the race route's even released to make sure you get a good itinerary, so it's a lot of homework involved. We had a lot of guests book and pay for trips. So it was a challenging time for us, the guests, the hotels, suppliers, bus companies. So everyone sort of stepped up and did the right thing. So it's been a really tough couple of years, but we're almost out the other side and people are starting to come back and enjoy themselves and opportunities arise. And, you were out guiding yesterday and had your L plates off today, and it's great to be back.
Gilly, what's it like over there this year? It seems that they've been so desperate to bring the Tour de France and the fans and everyone back like the ages of old, but with, not necessarily considering COVID. But it sounds like there's this bit of a grey cloud seeping in that COVID could be starting to affect the race, and that regulations, and they're probably going to be a little bit stricter with rider access. Are you sensing that over there this year?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely been a change. So you'll always, the riders particularly, are very conscious that whenever they're dealing with the general public, they're actually out with face masks on when they go to the sign-in, riding right up until the start line. They're wearing masks. We're in Legettes today. We've got a lot of the team staying on the rest day nearby. And all the riders that were actually out and staff that are out are actually wearing masks. So while they're out in the general public, they're really conscious about not picking up COVID. I was fortunate enough for Black Sheep to send me along to the presentations for the Tour of l'Avenir, the under-23 Tour de France, which just happened to be up the road. And Christian Prudhomme was there, also Bernard Hinault, and they were actually wearing masks within the group. And it's a real sort of mix that anyone tied up with the Tour de France is very conscious about making sure that they don't pick it up. In terms of the general public, it's been a bit of a mix. Like, obviously, it's quite hot at the moment. We're outdoors. The crowds have actually been quite large in some of the villages that we've been to. It's been good, but at the same time, I know with our guests, we're just making sure that we're conscious and doing the right thing.
And talk me through what it's like to be a roadside fan at the Tour de France. I've never been, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will have not attended the Tour de France. Tell me what it's like there on the ground.
There's nothing like the Tour de France, and we explain to our guests that you can win a stage as in terms of a cyclist, a stage of a Grand Tour like the Vuelta or the Giro, and you've got a job for the year. You win a stage of the Tour de France, you've got a job for life. And that's really the enormity of the event and the scale of the event. They'll close a 180 kilometre stretch of road. The logistics behind it are amazing. So it takes a lot of patience, but there's nothing like we're up in Châtelet yesterday for the summit finish. We're in the little village. It was great. The streets were lined. It's only quite a small village, and our guests were just overwhelmed. And we said, we're going to go and see the outdoor stage in a couple of days, and that will be literally tenfold on what they experienced. So there's nothing like an outdoor summit finish, and there's definitely not like anything like an outdoor summit finish on Bastille Day. So as you guys hit on earlier on, all the Frenchies will be trying to get into the breakaway. The first hour will be amazing because if a French team misses the break, it's going to be on for young and old, and there'll be a break of every single Frenchman in there. But then you've got people like the Pog will be chasing it. So it's going to be super exciting for all the guests. It's going to be a great day out.
So Gilly, tell me, when you're on tour, how does it work? Do you ride each day and ride to sort of a point and watch the tour, or how does it work? Because I've never been on one.
So obviously the Tour de France, there's a lot of elements. There's obviously the traditional mountaintop finishes that we all grew up watching on TV in the middle of the night and those amazing scenery. So we always pick like a mountaintop or a summit finish. We'll actually go up nice and early in the morning and ride up to the top and watch the race and all the excitement as the riders come past. We'll go and see a race start one day, a race finish one day. Feed zones are always a really good opportunity to go and pick up a souvenir, but even now with all the changes in some of the policies of the UCI, that's getting a little bit difficult because the riders aren't throwing as many water bottles out for everyone. But generally we'll do two options a day, an easy or a hard ride. We'll ride to a race start or a race finish. And if the days that we're not going and seeing the race, we'll go and do one of those iconic climbs like Outdoors or a Tourmalet or a Ventoux. Like the really hard concept for people to gauge is how far the Tour de France travels. So between the Alps and the Pyrenees, it's 750 kilometres. And for our Australian people, it's, Sydney to Brisbane. It's a long way if you want to go and chase the race every single day. So you'll go and see it for a few days, go do some good riding and then do some transfers. So it's a good balance. So if you go for 10 days, you might go and see the race 5 or 6 times at most and then go and knock off some of those iconic climbs to boast about when you get home to your mates.
Mm-hmm.
Gilly, why is it that cycling holidays are such a big hit? I remember you telling me during the week that you claimed there's up to 1,000 tour operators. And my jaw just dropped. 1,000 tour operators out there. When I first came to the Tour de France in 1996, there were lots of people on the side of the road, but very few were from English-speaking countries. And Bikestyle Tours, for example, have been around since the late 1990s. So the snowball effect in terms of tour operators really started in the early part of the century. But now there are a dime a dozen. Why do people want to be involved in a cycling tour group?
A lot of people, cycling's become, particularly in Australia, it's always been massive in Europe, but cycling's become really prominent in Australia. And it's one of those things, a lot of people have gotten into cycling later in life and they're learning how to go and do their local criterium and they're watching things on TV. And, it's pretty hard to get caught up in the allure of the Tour de France, and you see, again, massive mountains, the riders busting the guts, so to speak, and the things that we want to feel a part of. It's like going to the football and hearing the cheer of the crowd. The best thing about going to a Tour de France or a Giro is you get to see what it physically feels like to ride these famous mountains. And you've ridden up Outdoors, you've spent an hour climbing to the top, maybe stop at Dutch Corner for a quiet refreshment, sing a few songs, get into the festivities, and then watch the riders come up at 3 or 4 times the speed that you've done it. It's a really good way of experiencing yourself and then seeing how the pros do it. It's a hard sort of sport to beat.
Gilly, is there much fan education at the event? Because I don't know, after that Roubaix, the cobbles stage, I felt so angry with some of the actions that the fans had taken and that had put riders into harm's way. And so, I watching some of the live coverage, I saw that they had the odd ad about, if you're coming to the Tour de France, please keep these things in mind. Do you see anything on the ground? Because I honestly feel like some of these fans need to be fined. They need to get way more serious around some of the actions that we want to keep that interaction happening. It is what's beautiful about the Tour de France is how close you can get to those riders, but not when it's causing people to have to leave the tour.
I know in Europe, pre-COVID, they had there was a tradition the last couple of years before COVID hit that in France particularly they ran a massive advertising campaign. It was about respecting the riders, hands off, be aware, try and avoid pets at the races, all these things that we've seen on TV cause dramatic accidents. And what we explain to our guests is that the realisation of how fast they're going and the fact that they can travel at such high speeds and you cannot hear them coming. And when the caravan comes through, the caravan with sponsors' vehicles, there's probably around about 200 vehicles that comes about an hour before the race. But from between then and when the Tour de France comes, it's just a constant stream of cars, motorbikes, sirens, and people really don't realise when the race is actually coming. And the fact that the riders are doing 50k an hour, and even on the uphills, we were talking to them the other day going, they'll be doing 30k an hour up a climb. And even up at Châtelet the other day, saw on the TV they were 40k an hour on a 5% gradient. they're just absolutely flying, and they approach the people so quickly. So we always say to people, if you want to use a phone and get a great photo, you need to stand back at an elevated position. You can't be anywhere near the road. And the rule of thumb is you always have to look at the riders. Never look. You've always got to be facing them because they'll come out quite quickly. And we saw the poor rider, broke a neck the other day, got back on the bike and went to the finish. But when you see the slow-mo, he basically headbutted the guy because he was looking the opposite direction. So while they have an advertising program over here, the large majority of people on the side of the road are overseas guests. And there's nothing that actually happens day to day on about awareness. And a few years ago, they used to have some radio announcements coming through, English, French, and a couple of other languages about step back from the road. But I know the riders enjoy the spectators, but they're fearful of it. And I really don't know the solution. I know that we're very conscious with our guests is please don't end up on TV. You can enjoy yourself without getting close. And the analogy we always say, you imagine you're working in an office and someone comes and pushes you off your office chair. And that's literally the environment that the cyclists are in. So while it's exciting, there's ways to enjoy it without getting hurt and definitely not ruining a career. And what people don't appreciate is that a rider that finished the Tour de France is a massive achievement. You'll see the riders in the last week and their skeletons, half the field, if not more, just trying to make it to Paris because it's such an achievement. And you can't take that away from them for just being careless on the side of the road. Drives me nuts as well.
Well, I'm looking forward to January of next year, Gilly, because I think the Tour Down Under will go gangbusters. It will just explode after a 3-year hiatus because of COVID. And not just Bikestyle Tours, but I'm sure all tour operators from Australia will have a windfall. Is that how you see it?
Oh, absolutely. We say to all our guests that obviously we get to go all the big races and we do some trips outside of the major events, but the Tour Down Under is one of the best cycling events you can go to in the world. You get to stay in the one place for a whole week. You don't have to do transfers. Accommodation is fantastic. Access to the riders is really good before and after the race. It's quite laid back. The racing quality is amazing because obviously with the World Tour, it's really important for the team to get World Tour points for when they head back to Europe. There's a lot of benefits to that. Pre-bookings for us are really, really high because for a couple of years, rumours are there's a couple of really big names in the works that are looking at coming out. And it's not the fact that the Tour Down Under are asking them. It's that these big name riders are approaching the Tour Down Under to actually come out. So it's a testament to the event. And then looking at the race route for this year, Stuart O'Grady, sadly, jumped on board as the new race director and then COVID hit. But the race route he put together is really exciting. It's a big change. It's fantastic that the women's event will be a standalone event, but tied in really neatly at the start. So you'll be able to go along and see the women's and then see the men's, where it's a little bit separated previously. So anyone who goes down the Tour Down Under, you're going to see the top women in the world and the top men in the world. It's going to be fantastic.
Hollywood, you'll be there with your yellow glasses on and your yellow kit on.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Telling everybody how spectacular it'll be, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a big change not going up Wollonga, even though it was boring because Richie won every year. So, but I was surprised it wasn't going up Wollonga. I like the idea of the TT at the start, even though it's small. I think that's really good. But I was surprised they scrapped Wollonga because it's so iconic.
Got Mount Lofty as the final stage finish now. And I think part of the reason why they've changed it is because a lot of people, especially interstate people visiting South Australia, would prefer to leave on a Sunday night relatively early rather than 10 o'clock in the evening. And I think Mount Lofty provides that opportunity, particularly, we were discussing it earlier today, Adam, a 2 o'clock finish on a Sunday afternoon allows interstate people to go home early and go back to work on Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting. I definitely take Hollywood what you're saying. It's been one of those iconic events. I don't know if the fact that Richie kept winning it so convincingly probably changed their opinion. The fact that he retired may have helped them keep it. But I think obviously with Stewie coming in, it's probably a fresh approach. Like as an operator, logistically, Wollonga on a Saturday worked out better. Wollonga Hill on a Sunday wide, TV ratings may be a little bit higher. it made it almost impossible for people to go home that night. So if Tour Down Under didn't finish on a long weekend, as an example, you had to get a 10 o'clock flight to get back. So knowing that the riders like the challenge on the Saturday, they used to party a little bit on the Saturday night. They're going to be up for a really unique challenge, and it's almost like one of a Vuelta stage or the Tour de France stage where it's very short. And if you look at the last stage up Mount Lofty, there would be like if there's 100 metres of flat road in that whole stage. So it's going to be up the hill straight out of the gate. So it's going to be interesting. It'll be exciting.
That's good, because when they used to have the crit as the last stage, that was always junk. That was boring. Like, we wouldn't even bother going to watch it. It was just a procession. So, but yeah, maybe, look, I hope you're right. Hopefully it's good on that Sunday up Mount Lofty.
Can I just butt in there and say, take it from me, it's been a huge learning curve for me personally. I've jumped into a new vocation, and Gilly's teaching me the ropes as in terms of being a tour host. It's certainly a lot different to appearing in front of a television camera and talking into a microphone. But Gilly, you're showing me the ropes. How am I progressing after 3 days?
I heard you got dropped today, Mike. Just sorry, Gilly. I don't understand. How does a tour ride, how does a host get dropped? I heard you creeping, Mike. Lift.
No, Hollywood. It's the secret of guiding. Is you always want to make sure that as a guide, you're the last one on the road to make sure that no one gets lost, that no one's struggling.
The sweeper.
And,
he's the sweeper.
Tomo is
Exactly
professional.
right. That's why I got dropped.
I got told a rumour today that by one of the other ride leaders there that you're the punching bag, and you're quite enjoying being the punching bag. Is that true?
Well, they keep reminding me that I'm a washed-up television presenter, so I can go with that. It's probably true.
Mike, you keep reminding us of that.
We'll have to leave it there.
Exactly.
But in terms of what I'm getting in terms of remuneration, that text that you sent me earlier, Hollywood, it's not true. And just another thing, you had a go at me for my fashion and the way I'm wearing my cap.
Out. Seriously.
Now, what am I doing wrong?
I'll tell you what, for a start, you're wearing school shoes. You're wearing black shoes. Like, seriously, are you in school? So get rid of the black shoes. Pull your socks up. Your socks are not long enough. It looks like you're playing badminton. And finally, you wear your cap like Popeye the Sailor Man. Put a bit of luft in it. You're old school. You can remember Indurain. So lift your cap. Give it a bit of luft. Look in the mirror, mate.
I've heard of giving things a little bit of love, but a bit of luft? How do you
Luft.
spell that?
L-U-F-T, I think it is.
Adam, it's been great to have you along and giving us an insight on what tour operators are going through and what you guys have been through over the last couple of years with the pandemic. You've pushed through, you've pulled through, and I'm sure you'll be bigger and better as a result. Adam Gill, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, crew. Love your work.
Well, that's about all we've got for today, Tills and Hollywood. We'll do it all again very soon. A big thank you to you both. Hollywood, can we expect another bang bang on your social media?
Yeah, I'll probably do some bangs tomorrow. I'm going for a ride with a local guy in Lucas. So I'll show him how we do it in Australia. I'll sneak up and just go bang. See you. I'll have to work out how you say it in Italian. Bango. I don't know how you say it, but I'll try.
Look forward to it. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you very, very soon. The Domestiques will return.
The Domestics by Black Sheep Cycling.